A billionaire asked a waitress for stock tips and discovered an incredible transformative secret. On a dreary Tuesday afternoon, the clatter of plates and the sizzle from the griddle enveloped Sarah like a familiar embrace. It was just another shift at Millie's diner, where grease-stained menus and worn wooden booths felt like home. At 34, she was both a dedicated waitress and a tireless mother, struggling to juggle the demands of her 2 kids and bills that seemed to multiply. Yet somehow, amidst the chaos, she managed to wear a smile that radiated warmth, a beacon for the regulars who depended on her more than they realized. But today was different. As she poured coffee for a table of chatty retirees, a striking figure entered the diner, drawing glances from every corner. Clad in a tailored suit, he radiated an air of aloof sophistication that felt out of place in this bustling eatery. Yet, beneath the sheen of wealth and prestige, his eyes held a flicker of loneliness pulling Sarah's gaze. She couldn't help but feel an undeniable curiosity about the man who seemed so out of touch with the hum of life around him. "Can I get you something?" she asked, her voice steady despite the racing thoughts flooding her mind. He offered a faint smile and ordered coffee. "What's the special today?" "Just the usual comfort food. I'd recommend the meatloaf. It's what we do best," Sarah replied. There was a brief moment where their eyes locked, and she felt the solemn weight of his world pressing against her own. In an unexpected turn, he leaned in, humor masking an imminent sense of desperation. "Any stock tips? I could use some down-to-earth advice." Surprised, Sarah couldn't mask her initial shock. "Well, I run my own budget like the stock market," she quipped, half joking, intrigued by his earnestness. Their banter quickly spiraled into an unusual friendship, a union built on playful exchanges about money that made Sarah question her own life decisions. With each fleeting moment, Jake began to unveil an authentic side she hadn't seen before. Yet a gnawing unease slithered beneath the surface. While she shared her financial wisdom, the irony of wealth haunting this man haunted her. Could he ever truly understand her day-to-day struggles? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But with each cup of coffee they shared, Jake's newfound success brought with it shimmering, gossamer threads of corporate friendships that twisted around him. As they grew closer, his tension morphed. Invitations to elaborate parties, pressure to impress formidable figures, and the tantalizing felt luxury that came with wealth began to drown out their candid exchanges. Could he maintain this friendship birthed in a diner, amidst the whirlwind of blurred ambitions, or would he be pulled into the vortex of superficiality? Then one evening, with a storm brewing in her chest, Sarah confronted him, her voice resonating with raw honesty. "You're losing sight of what matters. Don't trade in your soul just for business deals." The fire in her words clashed against the icy reality of his world, igniting both conflict and revelation. In that moment, Jake stood on a precipice. Could he choose between the hollow allure of his corporate comrades and the authentic connection they'd built over coffee? The truth of what it means to be truly rich rippled through the air, darkening the diner that had become a sanctuary of understanding. The clock ticked ominously as Sarah's emotional strength became the battleground of Jake's existence. Would he listen, or would he lose everything that counted? Sarah's heart raced with a mixture of fear and anger as she watched Jake grapple with her words. There was a profound heaviness in the air, thickening the space between them like an unspoken promise hanging on a thread. She felt the stirrings of uncertainty swell inside her, puncturing her usual optimism. Could her blunt honesty be enough to pierce the corporate veneer that seemed to cloud his judgment? As Jake's brow furrowed in thought, Sarah's mind raced. She had always been the one comforting others, the steady force that held her family together. But now, standing on the precipice of vulnerability, she realized that she too had much to confront. Her insecurities about her own life choices danced within her, taunting her deeply. What right did she have to challenge a man drowning in success? Yet the act of speaking her truth felt liberating, like shedding layers of a skin she didn't want anymore. Jake leaned back in his chair, the tension in his shoulders palpable. The lively diner around them faded into a blur as Sarah fought against her own doubts. Could speaking up like this lead to something transformative for both of them? Could he even recognize that she wasn't just a waitress but a woman with her own form of wealth, a wealth of experience and unyielding hope? Instead of retreating, Sarah gathered her resolve. Jake, it's easy to lose yourself when the world demands a constant show of success. But does any of that really matter if you're not happy? If you can't even be real with the people you surround yourself with? The truth of her words hung in the air, and she could see the conflict flashing behind Jake's steely blue eyes. It was a reflection of her own internal battle, the need to be accepted versus the longing to remain authentic. Their entrenched roles shifted, their banter now tethered to an awakening acknowledgement of what each was risking. As if pulled by some invisible thread, Jake reached for his coffee, taking a slow sip, seemingly weighing her words. Maybe you're right. I've spent so much time impressing others that I lost sight of what really matters, he admitted quietly. The admission softened the atmosphere, revealing a crack in the armor he had so carefully constructed. Encouraged, Sarah pressed on. It's about finding a balance. You can have success and still be true to yourself. Those parties and deals, do they fill the void or is it just noise? His gaze shifted to the window, observing raindrops racing against the glass. It mirrored the turmoil brewing within him. I thought they would help me feel fulfilled, but the deeper I go, the more I feel isolated. The vulnerability between them forged a fragile bond. In that moment, Sarah realized they were both navigating the storm in their own ways. She in her struggle to rise above the daily grind, and he in the fight against corporate conformity. Could they find common ground despite their starkly different worlds? As Jake leaned closer, his expression shifting from dread to possibility, Sarah was struck with clarity. She could help him, even if it was just by sharing her insights, not just about stocks, but about the currency of life, and perhaps in doing so, she could rediscover her own path. Let me share more than just tips, she proposed, her voice steady. Let's build a plan for both our futures. I want to learn from you too. There's value in our different perspectives. With each word, a bridge began to form, one that could lead them both toward personal growth. They left the diner that night with a renewed sense of purpose, a commitment to explore their untapped potential. But lurking in the back of Sarah's mind was the nagging question. Would Jake cling to this new insight, or would the corporate world's allure pull him back under? The stakes felt higher now, and the realization that she had become more than just an observer began to settle in. As her footsteps echoed away from Millie's diner, determination ignited within her. What thoughts would she stir in Jake next, and how might their destinies intertwine in ways neither expected? The future lay ahead like a vast wilderness, beckoning for them to venture forth. But first, Sarah needed to confront her own fears of stepping beyond the walls of her comfort zone. The time had come to reevaluate everything. Where would this journey lead her, and what sacrifices would she have to make to actualize her dreams? The next day dawned with the promise of change, an invigorating spark that crackled in the air as Sarah laced up her shoes. The idea of stepping outside the comfort of her familiar routine excited her, yet a deep-seated trepidation lingered. Today would be different. She wouldn't merely slip through another shift, tending to the mundane needs of customers. Instead, she was determined to seize her own narrative, boldly stepping into her role as both an advisor and learner. At the cafe, the morning rush thrived, each coffee order harmonizing with the clinking of dishes and the chatter of delayed patrons. Yet Sarah felt an unusual stillness beneath the bustle. She mentally prepared herself for her conversation with Jake. The previously floundering confidence she'd collected was now a palpable force. When Jake strolled into the diner, he looked unguarded, almost searching. "Hey, Sarah," he greeted, flashing a faint smile that belied the exhaustion mounting in his eyes. She noticed the crease in his brow, the fatigue of corporate life seemingly wearing on him. Yet there was also an openness, an invitation to dig deeper. "Jake, I was thinking about what we talked about yesterday," she began, her voice steady. What if we set aside some time each week to really hash out our ideas? I'm curious to know how you navigate your world, and maybe I could lend perspective from mine." He leaned against the counter, eyes glimmering with intrigue. "You make it sound so strategic. You might be onto something." His view of Sarah shifted, a realization blooming that she could indeed contribute to him, not as an inferior, but as a valuable partner on a shared journey. This opening was significant for Sarah, transforming the dynamic of their relationship. "Let's brainstorm today. I want to help you prioritize. We can find areas in your life where you feel lost and see how we can change that," she suggested, her excitement bubbling over. As they immersed in a candid discussion over coffee, the essence of their intentions sharpened. They explored the intersection of ambition and fulfillment, peeling back layers of superficial pursuits that trapped Jake. Sarah critiqued the relentless chase of status that had consumed him. "What truly matters is how you feel about those achievements, Jake. It's not about the number of deals but the impact of the relationships you're building." Jake was silent for a moment, his mind racing. "You make it seem like it's possible to redefine success," he finally said, looking contemplatively into his mug. "But what if it's too late to change? People expect so much." A motley of responsibilities loomed ahead, yet Sarah sensed a crack in his armor. The fear of failure was there, but so was the possibility for rebirth. Change often feels daunting, and everyone grapples with the fear of disappointing others. "What if you could turn expectations into fuel for your own growth instead?" she challenged, leaning in. The tenacity behind their discussion revealed more than shared troubles. It birthed a new confidence in Sarah. She had ignited Jake's latent dreams, but she had also uncovered layers of her own ambitions. The truth was resounding. She desired more than just the slow familiarity of the diner. She yearned to elevate her narrative through this mutual collaboration. By the end of the day, their exchanges had transformed from mere complaints to actionable plans, both for Jake's corporate vision and Sarah's fierce aspiration for a different life. And with each actionable suggestion laid bare, she struggled with an awakening feeling, a mix of exhilaration and vulnerability. It was a reminder that she too needed to confront her fears of inadequacy. This is the moment when excitement turned into more than words. The journey required commitment from both parties. Would they remain consistent? Would Jake be able to break free from his pattern? Sarah wrestled with these thoughts as she locked up the diner, a sense of uncertainty creeping in. Determined to confront her own hesitations, Sarah knew she needed to engage with her dreams fully, ready to define what success truly meant for her. Yet, lurking in her mind was a lingering question. Could she maintain focus on her aspirations while navigating the chaos of her emotional upheaval? The skies above began to rumble, threatening rain, mirroring the brewing turmoil within her. As she drove home, a thought lingered like a bittersweet melody. What if their intertwined paths would challenge the very foundations of who they thought they were? Tomorrow promised potential. But would she be ready to navigate the unknown, armed only with hope and bravery? The next morning felt drenched in potential, but Sarah grappled with the weight of uncertainty. Sleep had been a restless companion as thoughts tangled in her mind. Her conversation with Jake flickered like a beacon, yet fears loomed large. Each moment of quiet was invaded by self-doubt about whether she had the capabilities to help him, or even to reshape her own narrative. As she slipped into her apron at the diner, the familiar scent of roasted coffee and baked goods wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. But today it felt different. Today, beneath the familiar hum of conversation, she sensed an undercurrent of drive in the air. With each arrival of patrons, she pushed away the lingering thoughts of unworthiness. She was a seeker of possibilities now, a budding architect of change. Jake's presence was magnetic as he walked in, his face illuminated by a newfound determination. "Hey, Sarah." His enthusiasm carved out the shadows of previous hesitations. "I've been thinking about our conversation. Let's take this further. I want to focus on not just what I need to prioritize in my work, but how to implement it practically." Her heart quickened. This was not just about Jake anymore. "Absolutely. I think creating actionable steps is key. How do you feel about starting with your biggest challenge? The almost immediate response from him revealed a breakthrough they were both unearthing. Time management. I spread myself too thin trying to please everyone. It's suffocating. Sarah's instincts kicked in. Let's map out your week, identify the demands and break them into manageable pieces. What if we prioritize your personal time too? You deserve that. As they sketched out plans within the chaotic boundaries of the diner, Sarah felt invigorated by Jake's willingness to probe deeper into the layers of their conversation. The mere act of helping him see that personal fulfillment could coexist with professional success ignited a spark within her, a revelation that focusing on others propelled the true essence of her potential. With every suggestion, she unearthed more insights not limited to Jake's life but extending beyond. The truth began to crystallize. Her desire for change was intrinsically woven into the fabric of their exchange. The ripple effect of his transformation meant ultimately lifting herself to unknown heights. The realization was almost dizzying, but beneath this buoyancy lurked anxiety, the kind that clawed at her confidence. Sarah's voice faltered as the weight of her aspirations drifted into view. Jake, can you promise me one thing? That this is a process we're both committed to? I'm starting to feel like I need this just as much as you do. His expression softened, revealing an unforeseen vulnerability. Sarah, I need someone who pushes me, and I think you're it. This won't be easy, but maybe we can both find clearer paths together. Together, she echoed, feeling the shared essence of their endeavor, forge a stronger bond between them. As the sun dipped low, casting amber rays through the diner window, Sarah's fears momentarily dimmed, overshadowed by an expanding sense of purpose. However, amid this burgeoning hope, a nagging thought gripped her. Was she truly prepared to guide someone while navigating her own uncertainties? The line between helping and losing oneself loomed dangerously thin. That evening, as she drove home, she could no longer ignore the truth simmering beneath her surface. The need to explore her own desires sparked a sense of urgency, an urgency that felt both liberating and terrifying. Tomorrow, she would need to carve out space not just for their plans but for her unspoken aspirations. As she parked, the downpour began, mirroring the tempest of anticipation brewing inside her. The night air buzzed with electric possibilities, leaving a singular question lingering in her mind. Would she have the courage to confront the depths of her own ambitions, or would fear chain her to the familiar? The next morning dawned with a heavy aura of determination as Sarah awoke, the storm of the previous night's thoughts still swirling in her mind. Each drop of rain that fell echoed the silent promises she had made to herself. Today would be different. Today, she would take the first shaky steps toward not just helping Jake, but understanding herself better. As she made her way to the diner, Sarah's internal dialogue wrestled with her unease. What if probing into Jake's life illuminated flaws in her own? The thought alone sent a shiver up her spine. Yet, the flicker of bravery began to ignite within her, strengthened by the knowledge that growth often emerged at the edge of comfort. Walking into the diner, her senses flooded with familiar sights and scents. She prepared herself for the day ahead. When Jake arrived, his face brightened with expectation. She felt an unfamiliar thrill. They had carved out this pact of accountability, a dynamic that excited her by making her feel competent in more than just serving coffee. Sarah, he greeted, his eyes shining with ambition. I reflected on our plans. I've managed to trim down my agenda, but I also want to explore how I envision success. Great, she replied, her enthusiasm keeping her anxieties at bay. What does success mean for you? Specifics can help pave the way. Jake took a deep breath, clearly wrestling with the idea. I want to prioritize my health, friendships, and finally, I want to start that environmental project I've been dreaming of. His words struck a chord with Sarah. Health, wasn't that what she had been neglecting too? It's imperative we don't just focus on work. Your holistic well-being creates a ripple effect in all aspects of life, she noted, her voice growing firm. As they continued laying out their plans, Sarah felt a surge of clarity. With each of Jake's revelations, she couldn't shake the sensation that she was not merely coaching him. She was undergoing her own metamorphosis. His pursuit was a window into her uncharted territory. Yet amidst the excitement, doubt crept in. Was the change they were creating sustainable? Would she falter when the next wave of uncertainty crashed over her? That evening, determined to explore her own dreams, Sarah returned home and sat down with a notebook. She drew out a blank canvas reserved for her future. It was both exhilarating and paralyzing. The realization stung. Why had she not demanded time for her desires until now? As each bullet point flowed onto the page, she felt the weight of her aspirations grow heavier yet lighter. She scrawled thoughts of education, personal projects, and travel plans, adventures conspicuously absent from her life until now. Suddenly, a harsh reality struck. What skills had she ignored that could aid in taking these steps? Would her modest experience at the diner translate to something richer? Questions churned in her mind, blurring the line between doubt and resolve. Was she truly equipped to redefine her life? Was she brave enough to pursue her ambitions? The following day, she resolved to confront these uncertainties head-on. "Whatever your fear," she muttered to herself as she prepared for another day at the diner, "you need to tackle it as fiercely as you encouraged Jake to face his." As she stepped outside, the world felt a little sharper, reality tinged with an invigorating intensity. Today she would seek answers about her career ambitions, stepping away from the reservations brought on by fear. The air was electric with possibilities. But just as she turned down the street, a figure appeared, a stranger in an expensive suit standing outside a nearby cafe, his gaze fixed on her. She felt an unexpected pull, an alluring curiosity urging her to engage. As she approached, a thought coursed through her. Who was he, and what could he mean for her unfolding journey? The potential for opportunity sat before her like an unopened door. Would she muster the courage to walk through? The stranger's presence was magnetic, pulling Sarah into his orbit with an energy that left her reeling. She briefly caught his eye, and a flicker of recognition sparked within her. This man seemed out of place, yet perfectly at home, donned as he was in sharply tailored clothing that spoke of wealth and influence. "Excuse me," the man said, his voice smooth like silk. "You must be Sarah, right?" The unexpected familiarity stunned her. "Yes. How do you know my name? Word travels fast in a place like this." He gestured to the cafe. "I'm Alex. I've heard about your conversations with the local community and am intrigued by your insights on success and ambition." She felt a rush of adrenaline and apprehension. Here was a man who thrived in circles she had only observed from afar. What could he possibly want with her? Thanks, I suppose," she replied, her voice quaking slightly. "I'm just a waitress at the diner. Nothing special, really." "Nonsense." He waved a hand dismissively as if her self-deprecation was unworthy of his time. "Everyone has something unique to offer, and I believe you have a perspective that's particularly valuable." Sarah's heart raced. Was he serious, or was this just charming banter? The weight of his gaze felt penetrating. She couldn't hide her flustered confusion. "I'm exploring a mentorship program for local talent," he continued, his tone shifting to one of intense earnestness. "I'd like to extend an offer. Perhaps you'd be interested in getting involved." "Mentorship? But I don't have any experience or expertise," she stammered, grappling with this unexpected proposition. How could she, someone so entrenched in the routine of life at the diner, possibly contribute meaningfully? "That's where you're mistaken," he countered, leaning slightly closer, his voice hushed. "Your life experience, your day-to-day encounters, they give you a perspective that can resonate far beyond what most people could share. I see potential in you that you don't yet recognize within yourself." Transitioning from apprehension to budding curiosity, Sarah felt an eagerness to explore what this could mean. The idea of stepping outside her comfort zone filled her with both excitement and dread. What would this involve? "We'd work together to create initiatives that empower others in this community, just as you're helping Jake," Alex replied. His eyes sparkled with intention. "I want to harness that energy and channel it into something impactful." A surge of hope intertwined with doubt cut through her thoughts. Could she truly take on the responsibility of guiding others while she was still figuring herself out? Would she be capable of rising to the challenge alongside someone like Alex? Before she could articulate her fears, the man slid a business card into her hand. Think about it. I believe a conversation is worth it, even if you're not sure right now. There's empowerment in the unknown. And then he was gone, slipping into the bustling cafe, leaving Sarah holding on to more than just a card in disbelief. Staring at the card, she could feel a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. What would moving forward mean for her delicate balance between personal ambition and current obligations? Suddenly, the shift in her perception felt monumental. Each decision before her could be the spark to ignite her passions or reinforce her insecurities. She had already resolved to be brave, but now she faced a daunting choice between the familiar confines of the diner and the vast, intimidating world of mentorship. As she headed back to the diner, an unsettling thought lingered. Was she ready to embrace this newfound possibility, or would fear hold her back once again? The air crackled with tension, her heart racing as she pictured both paths laid out before her. The opportunity loomed like a shadow, leaving her wondering, would she leap into the unknown, or step back into the safety of her everyday life? With every step, she could feel the potential for growth entwined with uncertainty growing stronger. The moment of truth was approaching, one that would test her resolve and redefine her path. Would she seize the day, or retreat into the comfort of predictability? As Sarah returned to the diner, she felt the familiar hum of the place surrounding her, a cacophony of clinking dishes, low murmurs of conversation, and the comforting scent of fried food. It was home, but today it felt different. The weight of Alex's proposition hovered over her like an impending storm. Every plate she delivered, every order she took, felt like a reminder of the chasm she was standing on the edge of. She went through the motions, refilling coffee cups with an automatic smile, but inside, her mind raced through possibilities. Each interaction with the regulars at the diner made her reflect on the moments of genuine connection she shared, their stories, their struggles. Hadn't her everyday conversations mirrored the very essence of connection? Alex's words echoed, suggesting she held more power than she realized. During her break, Sarah sat in a corner booth, her heart still racing. She unfolded the business card, reading Alex's name over and over, imprinting it in her memory. What would it mean to accept an offer that could shift her trajectory? The thought was both intoxicating and terrifying. She remembered Jake, a troubled teen she had been trying to guide. Their conversations, filled with vulnerability and honesty, hinted at her intrinsic ability to mentor. Sarah realized that, while she may not have formal credentials, her experience of navigating life with all its complexities had equipped her with a unique understanding. Could that really translate into something meaningful in a larger context? Thinking back to Alex's comments about empowerment pushed her towards action. Perhaps it was time to channel her insights into creating something transformative. But did she have the skill to execute a program aimed at others' successes? Her doubt surged, but it was accompanied by a flicker of enthusiasm, a newfound belief in her ability to cultivate change. After her shift, instead of heading home, she opted to walk through the local park, her mind bubbling with ideas about what she could do. The crisp air invigorated her, and with every step, she felt the stirrings of purpose warming her chest. Mentorship wasn't just about imparting knowledge, it was about fostering an environment where people felt heard and inspired. Was it possible for her to create those spaces even on a small scale? What if she organized workshops at the diner, inviting community members to share their stories and skills? The thought electrified her, that she'd harness the diner as a hub for growth and connection. She could explore resources, reach out to local businesses for support, using her connection to the community as a launchpad. Determined, she pulled out her phone and began taking notes. Each bullet point burst forth, detailing ideas for discussions, topics of interest, and potential speakers. Sarah's heart pounded with a mix of hope and trepidation as she sketched out workshop formats. Just then, she received a notification from Alex's card, a message inviting her to meet him Saturday morning to discuss the mentorship program. The urgency surged within her. This was more than a conversation now. This was a pivotal moment. She could take the step forward or hesitate and retreat. Coming to a stop, Sarah looked at the park's lush greenery, breathing in deeply. The choice lay before her. She could propel herself into an uncertain future filled with potential, or succumb to the familiar but dormant routine of her life. The thrill of potential swelled inside her as she fervently replied to Alex, confirming their meeting. The decision was made. She would embrace this challenge. As she turned to leave the park, invigorated by her resolve, a thought crossed her mind. Would she be strong enough to turn her insights into actionable change, or would the shadows of self-doubt continue to loom? With her heart pounding, Sarah could feel the storm of change approaching, leaving her to wonder what profound revelations lay ahead in her first conversation with Alex. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the diner as Sarah arrived for her shift, her heart still echoing with the anticipation of her meeting with Alex. Today, the familiar hum of the place held a different tone, more vibrant and charged. It was as if the universe sensed her resolve, aligning her environment with the possibilities swirling in her mind. She moved through the routine of her day, taking orders and serving breakfast, but there was a clarity to her interactions. Each smile exchanged, every casual conversation with the patrons awakened a new sense of purpose within her. The laughter of the regulars, the clatter of cutlery, it all seemed to carry the weight of potential growth. Jake came in just after the morning rush, his troubled expression immediately drawing her attention. Normally she would have hesitated, unsure of how to broach the topic of his struggles, but today felt different. "Hey Jake, how's it going?" she asked, her voice steady and inviting. His brow furrowed, and she sensed the turmoil churning beneath his surface. "It's just tough," he mumbled, avoiding her gaze. Sarah felt an impulsive surge. Refining her understanding of mentorship, she leaned closer to him. "You know, sometimes talking helps. I've got an idea brewing for something I'm starting soon, and it could be a space for sharing, just like we talk here. Would you want to join?" Surprise flickered in his eyes. "A sharing space?" "Yeah, a chance to talk about what matters to you. Bring your experiences, offer advice to others, and hear from people who have been through stuff too," she said, her excitement infectious. I think that might actually help," Jake admitted, visibly brightening. In that moment, Sarah realized her idea was beginning to take shape. A simple conversation had the power to ignite hope, and she felt the shadow of self-doubt receding slightly. Perhaps she had been underestimating her ability to spark change. As her shift wound down, anticipation gnawed at her. Every second felt elongated, every clock tick echoing her inner turmoil. Would Alex understand her vision? Would he be as enthusiastic about her workshops as she was? Gripped by a mix of nerves and excitement, she strategically planned what she would say. The meeting with Alex was destined to unfold some of her uncertainties. While she envisioned the camaraderie of the community sessions, she also fretted over the logistics, how to bring people together, including securing enough resources. Would she need to reach into her meager savings or seek partnerships with local businesses? She rubbed her temples, shaking off the rising anxiety. It was easy to fixate on the roadblocks rather than the strides she could make. This was going to be a project fueled by her passion, and she reminded herself that every initiative started with a single step forward, even if that step felt daunting. As she got ready to leave, the weight of the business card in her pocket reminded her of the summit she was about to face. What if Alex scoffed at her ideas? What if he didn't see her potential? But the flicker of confidence within her surged once more. She was no longer speaking from a solitary perspective. She was advocating for those like Jake, those who were yearning for growth, connection, and guidance. Stepping out of the diner, she inhaled the crisp evening air, grounding herself. She had made this commitment to change, and she wasn't turning back. When Saturday morning arrived, she would present her concept to Alex. And as she walked away from the flashes of evening light, a thought struck her. What if Alex had something unexpected to reveal that would test her convictions? With her heart racing, Sarah began to wonder if this new chapter would demand more from her than she was prepared to give. Would she be ready to face the vulnerabilities that lingered just beneath the surface? Saturday dawned, its brightness almost blinding as Sarah stood in front of her bathroom mirror, running a brush through her hair. Her heart beat steadily now, the early morning jitters giving way to a determined calm. She took a deep breath and rehearsed her pitch once more. She could almost hear the encouraging smiles of her patrons echoing in her mind, the belief they had in her shaping her confidence. Arriving at the cafe, she felt the familiar weight of her anticipation, yet it was coupled with an undercurrent of excitement. The thought of sharing her vision with Alex filled her with an energy that crackled just beneath her skin. What if this meeting changed everything? The diner was quieter this morning, the usual hum of chatter subdued as she prepped for the day. With each meal she plated, she mentally structured her ideas into an articulate narrative. She needed to present not just a concept, but a vision of how a series of workshops could empower people like Jake. Sarah! Alex's voice broke through her thoughts. He strode in, exuding confidence, the practiced ease of someone used to commanding attention. Today, he wasn't just her boss. He was the sounding board she desperately needed. "Hey, Alex," she said, forcing her nerves into submission and masking any trace of uncertainty with a warm, enthusiastic smile. "Can we chat?" "Absolutely," he said, motioning toward a booth in the corner away from the din. They settled in, and Sarah took a moment to gauge his expression. He looked open, attentive, a good sign, but the hint of curiosity danced in his eyes. "What's on your mind?" Alex prompted, crossing his arms in a way that signaled he was ready to listen. This was it. Sarah cleared her throat, her heart galloping as she unspooled the details of her idea. "I've been thinking about creating a space, a workshop really, where people can come together to share their experiences, learn from each other, and offer support." As she spoke, she watched Alex's brow furrow slightly, weighing her words. "And you think you can lead this?" "Yes, I really believe in the potential of these interactions," she rushed to explain. "We often forget how powerful our experiences are. I want to facilitate these conversations." "I see the passion," he nodded. "But tell me how you plan to implement this. Do you have resources? A location?" His questions were pointed, urging her to consider the structure. Doubt gnawed at her. "I thought maybe I could use the diner during off hours. It's familiar and the community already trusts the space." He leaned back, contemplating her idea. "That does have merit, but it will require commitment and organization. Have you thought about how to sustain participation?" She felt a flicker of frustration. It was easy for her to envision the community aspect, but the logistics were forming an insurmountable wall. "I'm still figuring that out, but I know that I want to start small. Maybe begin with just a few sessions, gauge the response." Alex's gaze sharpened, suddenly intense. "Sarah, creativity is crucial, but practicality is the backbone. You need a plan, a detailed structure. Think about guidelines, the demographic you want to target, budget, everything." Each of his points landed like a tiny pin, piercing her grand vision. "You're right," she admitted, feeling vulnerability wash over her. The thought of delving deep into numbers and operational plans felt overwhelming. "I suppose I am a bit out of my comfort zone." There was a long pause as Alex studied her. "Don't let doubt stifle your passion. We all start somewhere. Face it head on." With resolve flickering back to life, she nodded, the fire in her stomach reigniting. "I can do this. I will do this." "Well, if you're serious about executing this, I can help you arrange a meeting with some local business partners. They might contribute resources or lend expertise." "Really?" she asked, barely believing the offer. "Of course. But remember, it's on you to drive this forward. You've got the vision. Now you need to define how to make it a reality." As they wrapped up their discussion, a sense of clarity settled over Sarah. She wasn't merely reaching beyond her comfort zone. She was tearing through barriers she had never allowed herself to confront. Walking back to her station, she felt invigorated, but also vulnerable. What if her plans failed to materialize? What if she uncovered more about herself than she bargained for? An unsettling realization about her own limits, but there was no turning back. Driven by a newfound empathy for those navigating their own estrangements and struggles, Sarah realized that this journey was not merely about her, nor was it solely about the workshops. It was a transformative process that extended beyond each of them. As she served coffee and a breakfast special to a couple of regulars, her thoughts whirled with a determination to pull everything together strategically. But then, a thought hit her with unexpected force. What if her success hinged on a truth so deeply buried within her that she hadn't yet acknowledged? She paused, washing plates, her mind racing with darker implications. What awaited her in the uncharted territory of self-discovery? Would she find strength or fracture under pressure as her plans began to take shape? The air in Millie's diner was thick with the intoxicating scent of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon as Sarah entered for her shift, determination fueling each step. The conversations buzzed around her, regulars exchanging laughter and stories between hearty bites. Today was different. Today she was not just a waitress. She had a mission. After Alex's encouraging words, Sarah spent the night drafting a detailed plan for her community mentorship workshops. She could feel a newfound clarity and purpose as she imagined the faces of people like Jake lighting up at the prospect of genuine connection. She envisioned transforming the cozy space of the diner into a hub of inspiration, a fertile ground for growth. As the morning rush settled down, Sarah approached Jake, who sat in a booth staring bleakly out of the window. His eyebrows knitted tightly together revealed his ongoing struggle, a reflection of the immense pressure he felt in his life. "Hey, Jake," she began gently. "I've been thinking about our conversation and I want to invite you to help me with something new." He turned to her, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension in his eyes. "What do you mean?" he asked. "I'm starting a series of informal workshops at the diner where we can share experiences and help each other grow," she explained, her voice firm. "I want you to join me. We could all benefit from having these conversations together." Jake's expression shifted as his mind raced through the possibilities. "You really think people would want to share like that?" "I know they would," Sarah replied with confidence that surprised even herself. "You've got valuable perspectives, Jake. We all do. This could be an opportunity for you to not just open up, but maybe help others who feel the same way." His shoulders relaxed incrementally. "Honestly, that sounds really cool. I'd love to help." They began sketching out plans during her breaks, brainstorming topics and potential participants. With every idea they exchanged, Jake's enthusiasm sparked further confidence within Sarah. She realized that not only was she helping him, but he was also rekindling her own belief in her vision. That evening, Sarah sat at her kitchen table, papers strewn about as she finalized the workshop details. She scribbled notes, names of local businesses she could contact for support, and critical elements to weave into their sessions. The excitement coursing through her energized her fatigue. She sent out emails and made calls, determined to gather resources for the coming weeks. Saturday arrived, and as she stood behind the counter, she felt the anticipation thrumming in her veins. Jake arrived, a buoyant energy surrounding him. "Hey, I've been thinking about how we could kick things off. What if we shared our personal stories first? That might break the ice." "Great idea," Sarah replied, her eyes brightening. "We should also create a comfortable atmosphere. Maybe we could set up a circle instead of just sitting at the diner tables." As the days turned into weeks, their workshop series began to unfold beautifully. Each session attracted a small yet diverse group, people eager to share their struggles and hopes. They filled the booths, the diner's warmth transforming into a haven of vulnerable discussions. It was a melange of laughter, tears, and collective understanding, an alchemical mix that was profoundly healing. Sarah had conquered her initial fears, displaying solid competence as she facilitated discussions, ensuring everyone felt validated. Each new face shared stories that resonated, not just within the diner walls but within Sarah's core. She was not simply a waitress, she was a catalyst for change. News about their workshops spread throughout the community, drawing more participants weekly. Sarah received encouraging feedback, and she felt a deep-seated sense of recognition from her peers, a validation that she was indeed making a difference. It was heartwarming to see Jake thrive, his confidence blossoming as he inspired others while sharing his journey. One day Alex stopped by the diner, drawn by the positive buzz surrounding the workshops. He observed the atmosphere, the laughter emerging from every corner, and the earnest discussions taking root at each table. "I didn't realize how impactful this was going to be," he remarked, genuinely impressed. Sarah smiled, proud of her journey. I learned to believe in myself and trust in the value of our stories. That empowerment can spark connections, and it's been incredible to watch. As the workshop season drew to a close, Sarah stood in the diner, absorbing the body of work she had accomplished. The smile that lit her face was one of fulfillment, illuminated by the transformations she had fostered within herself and others. Her growth extended beyond the diner's confines, marking a significant leap in personal development. She had become an empathetic leader. The familiarity of the diner felt like home, yet it was now imbued with a sense of purpose she had never known. Each cup of coffee she poured was more than a refreshment. It encompassed stories shared, connections forged, and lives potentially altered, including her own. On her last shift of the workshop series, as she swept through the diner, Sarah reflected on her evolution from just a waitress at Millie's to a recognized figure dedicated to uplifting others. She wore her new title with pride, standing in her own power. It was a profound realization. She had transformed her life through guiding others. With her heart anchored in satisfaction, she felt a serene confidence wash over her. The alignment of her aspirations with her reality inspired her to pursue even greater challenges ahead. She was ready to expand her reach, to go deeper. As the diner quieted and patrons began to filter out, Sarah excitedly contemplated the future. She envisioned a more profound mentorship program, expanding the model further into the community, bringing in leaders from various fields. However, today, she was simply reveling in the realization that she had taken action in her life, something she had always dreamed of, but never thought possible. Sarah smiled brightly, honored to have transformed her own path while empowering those around her. Now, as this story of individual triumph concludes, it is your turn to step boldly forward. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on more inspiring journeys that ignite personal growth. Leave a like now to boost the algorithm. Every click counts in sharing these powerful stories. Comment below about your thoughts on Sarah's transformation. Engage with fellow enthusiasts and share your own experiences. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who could use the power of encouragement in their lives. Let's build a community dedicated to personal overcoming stories.